Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of Alan's Card Game Den. This is a show where we discuss card games, primarily trading card games, from the perspective of someone who's primarily a collector and a very casual player. So, as always, don't expect deep analyses of games, but rather a more general overview of a game, its gameplay, and the products that are or were available for it. So far, we've covered a few smaller and maybe less popular games. Today, we're covering one that's quite a bit bigger, and that also happens to be one of my all-time favorites, Hack Enemy. Hack was published by Decipher from 2003 to 2005. In that time, it released 5 sets of cards, as well as a bunch of different promotional cards, such as this gift set. The game also had tournament support, with several cards, including an entire card type, that was only available through tournaments. The game itself is themed around the .hack series of games and anime. In particular, a specific video game for the PlayStation 2. Hack itself centers around a massively multiplayer online role-playing game called The World, and the characters that you encounter and play as in the video games and the anime are player characters, which supposedly have real humans behind them. In contrast, the .hack card game subverts that somewhat, and you're playing as various enemies in the MMORPG that the player characters encounter, hence the name .hack Enemy. The game has 8 different card types, although one of the types is not generally available and is not part of your deck. Player character cards, or PCs, represent the various player characters in the world. Each has a name, one of 6 classes: Blade Master, Twin Blade, Heavy Blade, Heavy Axeman, Long Arm, and Wave Master, and a strength number. Some PCs also have abilities, a tolerance for damage, requirements to play them, and additional keywords such as Knight. Every card in your deck also has a destiny number in the top right, which is used for the game's semi-random number mechanic. Item cards represent things that PCs wear or equip. Most commonly, you'll find weapons and armor, but other types of items exist, ranging from helms to boots. Equipment may provide additional strength. It may provide additional tolerance, and it may provide other effects. Each can also have a requirement to play and a special ability. All cards other than the PCs also have one of the 6 elements, which are fire, water, earth, wood, thunder, and darkness, or they can be non-elemental. These elemental icons are used by various gameplay effects and requirements, such as spotting, which just means being able to see the icon in play on either your board or your opponent's. Action cards represent abilities that PCs can use. These are played face down and flipped at the appropriate time. Each has a flip effect and a trigger. Monster cards are the core of the game in many ways, and represent the enemies that PCs are fighting. Each monster card has a strength and a number of victory points, which may be 0. They also have play requirements, and have an effect that can be used when the monster wins a battle against a PC. Finally, monsters can be storable, which means they can play to a special area called the portal instead of immediately attacking when played. This allows you to build a large army of monsters before unleashing them on your opponent all at once. Event cards are one-time effect cards that have a requirement to play, and of course an effect when played. Field cards are kind of like ongoing event cards and represent the locations where PCs are fighting. They can also have play requirements, and only one field can be in play at a time between both players. Grunties are only found in one set in the game, and there's one for each of the 6 elements. They're little creatures that you can feed cards to, which grant special abilities and effects when fed. Finally, level up cards, which are used more as tokens than as cards. They start the game in play rather than being part of your deck, and can be spent to pay the cost of special cards. Level up cards and all cards that use them could only be obtained through tournaments and organized play. Gameplay is fairly straightforward, although the cards, of course, add a lot of complexity. Each turn, you play a card and draw a card. Any card can be played face down, whether or not it's an action. If you can't play a card from your hand normally, you must place one face down as your play. You can play new PCs up to a limit of 3 PCs, as long as you don't already have a PC with that name in play. You can also play a PC matching a PC you already have in play to heal it. You can play a storable monster to your portal, or any monster, storable or not, to attack. You can play an item card to your PCs, an event card for its effect, a field card to change the current field, or just play a grunty. Whenever a monster is played to attack, monsters from your portal that are allowed to join may join the attack. Joining can be triggered either from a monster in your portal or by the monster that started the attack. Your opponent can opt to dodge the attack, allowing you to score all monsters involved in the attack. If they do not dodge, combat begins. Your opponent first assigns one monster per PC they have in play. You assign all remaining monsters as you see fit. Your opponent chooses the order of PCs to fight. For each fight, you and your opponent both discard the top card of your deck and add its destiny number to the total strength of your monsters or the PC, as appropriate. The higher strength wins the combat, and monsters win ties. If the monsters win, you may use the reward of each monster in the fight, and then you may score one monster card from that fight, discarding the others. If the PC wins, all monsters in the fight are discarded without effect. This happens for each fight until all fights are resolved. You win the instant you have 7 points of monsters in your score pile. Remember that the score pile is in play and is subject to effects that destroy or sacrifice monsters, but that the cards can also be spotted like usual. The game ended up with 5 different sets: Contagion, Distortion, Epidemic, Isolation, and Breakout. There were other special products such as this gift set, which contained alternate art versions of extra rare PCs from Contagion, the first set, as well as, of course, tournament cards and promo cards. The first 3 sets had starter decks that released with them. Contagion had Kite and Black Rose. Distortion had Terajima Ryoko and Senjuro. And Epidemic had Mia and Elk. Starter decks included a 60-card deck that was roughly themed around a specific PC, and that PC, of course, was featured on the box. 5 cards in this deck were found only in starter decks, and were foil cards. The remaining cards in the deck were common and uncommon cards. Each starter deck also came with a rulebook and a playmat. The Isolation set had pre-constructed decks rather than starter decks. These were 60-card decks, also themed around a specific PC, which was featured on the box. Again, 5 cards in each deck were found only in starter decks, and were foil cards, with the remaining cards being common and uncommon rarity. The 2 decks for this set were Gardenia and Marlowe. Unlike starter decks, the pre-constructed decks did not include either a rulebook or a playmat. The last set, Breakout, was only available in booster packs. There isn't a lot to say about these decks from a rarity standpoint. Since no starter deck includes rare cards, you aren't spoiling any rare pulls from booster packs. You'll also want to acquire the starter decks for the exclusive cards, and each deck clearly indicates which deck it is, which means you can avoid the problem of unwanted duplicate decks, as with other games that blind pack their decks. In general, this is great for collectors. Hack Enemy is one of my favorite games, but a lot of that might be nostalgia. My undergrad group of friends played the game with me, and we developed several in-jokes from it. But I also just think it's a good game, and for a long time after it went defunct, it was inherently affordable, even for a poor undergrad. I've always enjoyed games with relatively simple rules. While, like most TCGs, complexity can be introduced via cards, this game still remains simpler to learn than most other TCGs. It also didn't involve fiddly pieces, such as dice, damage counters, or condition markers. And if you don't care about building a national competition-worthy deck, which I obviously don't, deck building is relatively free and open, with a large number of monster families you can combine and use with basically any PC class. The game itself is also just fun. There's nothing like filling your portal with a bunch of snakes and lizards and unleashing them all at once, or facing off against a deck of fish that's just hilarious and underpowered. You also don't need to fill a deck with rare cards, and in many cases you can't, because you need some of the common and uncommon enemies to enable the rares and extra rare cards to be playable. The play requirements on cards generally force a balanced deck. Destiny also adds a fun deck building aspect, where you can build the deck that has some more limited direct power but higher destinies, or take the gamble with stronger cards at the risk of destiny draws of 1. It's a card balance aspect I think they did very well. I'm also impressed by how little the game suffers from power creep. While there's definitely some aspect of that, especially around phase monsters from the Breakout set, in general, cards from the first set remain completely viable, and in many cases crucial. As mentioned, Destiny is a good power balancing mechanic, as well as the points on enemies, and the enemy rewards help too, which makes a stronger but lower Destiny monster not inherently better than a weaker enemy with 5 Destiny and a good ability, but maybe no points. Overall, I think the game hits the right combination of affordability now that it's defunct, accessibility, simple rules that can get anyone playing quickly, and depth. So I really enjoy this game.